season's definitely been, I mean, the last God knows how many seasons have been hard in their own way. This one's definitely been the most intense one, I would say, just from a work perspective. Integrating into a new culture and into a new team. It's not gone smoothly in all areas, and it's been a real battle. So my spirit, I definitely need to get away and recharge, be around the kids, laugh, let go. Sure, there'll be some tears at some point, and I think that's really healthy. So but I am excited, or I'm always excited to race. I love what I do. I love being in red. I love working with this team, and I have such belief in this team. Like it's really hard to explain, but I already had it a lot when I was in my previous team. Like over time, you really build that camaraderie, and I see the passion in this team, and oh man, I love it. It's like all I want to do is contribute the best that I can. Of course, I need to do most of that, mostly on track, and I'm not always hitting that. But also in the background, I see there's things that we can always improve, and there's things that I can improve on. So I'm just really excited for this break. I think for everybody, particularly the guys at the factory, I think they'll definitely enjoy this time with their family, and then we'll come back extra energized for the second half.
What happens when the 7-time world champion, visibly annoying, declares that neither he nor Ferrari are yielding to the expected level? Are we facing the beginning of your silent revenge, or the first great internal break in Maranello? For Hamilton, the challenge has been double. Not only should it be adapted to a new and completely different car than the Mercedes that it has piloted since 2013, but also has to tune in with a work culture that is radically different. Ferrari, with its most hierarchical internal structure and its decisions often conservative, contrasts with the most agile and collaborative approach it had in Mercedes. The British pilot recognized him openly. He thought his experience would allow him to shorten the learning curve, but he has realized that he is not so simple. Adapt to Leclerc's driving style, understand the limits of the SF25, and find its own rhythm have been more arduous tasks than expected. On the eve of the Hungary Grand Prix, during the usual pilot press conference, Hamilton decided not to dodge the issue that had been weighing on his back for weeks. For the first time since he signed with Ferrari, he broke the diplomacy protocol and showed his discontent. He did it with a firm tone, but without losing the elegance that characterizes him. There were no shouts or direct signs, but every word he said was a covert warning. A message that, rather than the media, was aimed at its own team, to Paddock and all those who doubted their ability to resurface. Lewis began with a phrase that encapsulated everything: "I have been very critical with myself. I know that I have not unlocked what I can offer with this car, and that is frustrating. I refuse to believe that this is all I can do." That statement was the first shot, because it came from someone who knows their limits better than anyone. And if he says he is not yielding to 50%, then Ferrari has a major problem than he appears. The following was even more revealing. Hamilton confessed that his transition has been more difficult than he imagined, not due to lack of will or preparation, but because of the lack of real tools to evolve the car in race time. He assured that, until now, he had not been able to implement the changes that he and his team of engineers considered fundamental, because time did not allow it. Everything happens very fast on a weekend of Grand Prix, and when you are behind, you never have the space to experiment, just to survive. These words made it clear that he feels that Ferrari has limited him more than he has enhanced. But the toughest statement was not technical. It was emotional. At one point, Hamilton looked forward and released, "I know what is needed to win championships. I didn't come here to be another name on the timesheet." It is not a casual phrase. It is an affirmation that establishes a dividing line. He is saying that he will not accept a secondary role in this story. That Ferrari did not come for romanticism, but to close his career at the top. And the most striking thing is that he never pointed to a particular person. He did not openly criticize director Frederick Vasseur or the SF25 engineers. Instead, it dropped that there are decisions that must already be made, even if they are uncomfortable. He mentioned that he has had very serious conversations within the team, and that this weekend would mark a before and after. He made it clear that patience is running out and that the narrative of the adaptation period no longer serves as an excuse. Some in the paddock interpreted these words as a veiled threat. Others as a way of motivating Ferrari to move faster, to listen more to his star pilot. The truth is that it was not a simple emotional download. It was a tactical maneuver, calculated. A warning to the purest Hamilton style. Because when he talks to this level of seriousness, he is preparing the ground for something. Perhaps a radical change in the car configuration, in the team's strategy, or even in its way of addressing the next major awards. This statement not only exposed the tension that crosses its integration in Ferrari, but reactivated the interest of the media and the fans for their figure. Suddenly, the focus turned back to him. And although the results do not accompany it yet, now there is a different sensation in the air. Because an injured, frustrated, but determined Hamilton is possibly one of the most dangerous forces that may be on the grill. The Hungary Grand Prix, under normal conditions, is just one more stop in the Formula One calendar, but for Lewis Hamilton, this year represents much more. The Hungaroring circuit has become an almost symbolic terrain within its trajectory. It has won there 7 times, it has starred legendary traces and has sealed key chapters of its career. It is not simply one more track. It is a scenario where his talent has shown even when the car was not the best. Therefore, reaching Hungary with the weight of accumulated frustration is not a coincidence. It is an opportunity. The Hungarian layout is narrow, technical, and demanding in the physical. It rewards curve precision, traction, and the ability to manage the rhythm for long turns in clean air. It is a circuit that demands total confidence in the car and maximum concentration in each braking. But it is also a place where the differences between cars can be minimized with a good tuning and a brave strategy. Just the type of conditions that historically have allowed Hamilton to get more performance from the expected. Therefore, his statement that we are going to make difficult decisions this weekend makes even more sense. Internally, Ferrari has been analyzing the possibility of introducing significant modifications in the SF25 configuration for Hungary. Among them, changes in the balance and settings in the motor mapping to improve the power delivery to the curve output. Paddock sources mention that Hamilton has pressed to perform a specific work in the previous simulation, aimed at returning to the car a more predictable sensation. It is not just about finding speed, but about rebuilding trust between pilot and machine. Because when Hamilton feels the car as an extension of his body, he can do things that touch the impossible. But what intrigues the observers most is the environment within the team. Since the season began, Ferrari has maintained a cautious posture, focusing on minimizing errors and collecting data. However, Hamilton's comments have forced a re-evaluation. Some team members fear that a new disappointment in Hungary can definitely turn on an internal fracture. Others, on the other hand, believe that this weekend could be the exact point where everything starts to fit. Because despite the difficulties, there are signs of improvement. The classification performance has been promising, and the distance with the career leaders has been slightly reduced compared to Australia. In addition, there is an emotional component that cannot be ignored. Hamilton knows that his time in F1 is not infinite. This project with Ferrari could be his last great battle, his last chance to show that he is still the best. And that motivates it in a special way. There is nothing more dangerous than a champion with pending accounts. Therefore, when he says that this race can mark a before and after, it is not a manual phrase. It is a declaration of war. What is coming, then, is not just a career in Budapest. It is a turning point. If Ferrari responds, if Hamilton manages to connect with the car and gets into the fight for the podium or even for victory, we will be facing the beginning of a new narrative, a second competitive youth of the British pilot. But if the car fails again, if the wall decisions condemn it again and the errors are repeated, the speech will change. What is frustration today could transform into disenchantment. And what seems like a challenging transition could become an open conflict. Hungary will decide whether Hamilton's story in Ferrari is that of an epic resurrection or the beginning of a silent disenchantment. Everything will depend on how the next 70 laps are written. Imagine for a moment that we are about to witness one of the most radical transformations in the recent history of Formula One. A 7-times world champion that, after leaving the comfort zone that Mercedes represented, now faces its greatest challenge in more than a decade. Rebuild its competitive identity within Ferrari, a team loaded with history but plagued with pressure. The pieces are on the table. The environment, tension, expectations. Everything seems to indicate that something is about to happen. The question that remains in the air is direct and powerful. Will it be the exact point in which Lewis Hamilton transforms frustration into impulse, disappointment in motivation, and uncertainty in leadership? Are we really facing the beginning of your comeback? Or perhaps, if errors persist and the limitations of the car are not resolved, will we begin to see the deterioration of a relationship that has not even reached its fullness? And this is where you enter. Because this is not just a technical analysis or a review of the news of a legendary pilot. This story is also yours. We want to know what you think. Do you think Hamilton will reconsider his season from the Hungary GP? Or do you think Ferrari has underestimated the complexity of adapting it to its current structure and car? What changes do you think should already be done in Maranello to prevent this historical association from imploding? Leave your detailed opinion in the comments. Subscribe to not miss the next episodes of this story that just begins.